wrong. I really don't even think this game is going to be close. I'm not trying to screw up viewership for it. It's a big event, one of the biggest games we have seen. But I think Texas's roster is better, and I think Ohio State is going to be hung over from last year with a new quarterback. By the way. Two new coordinators as well. Try putting that in the potion and making it work well. It's usually a disaster.
Not even close. Candy, do you believe Vegas got it right?
Yeah, I think Vegas got it right. If it was on a neutral field, it'd likely be a pick 'em. But here's the thing: this game is at the Shoe, and they haven't lost a season opener at home under Ryan Day since he's been the head coach there. And oh, by the way, you're talking about Ohio State having arguably the two best players in college football, regardless of position, in Jeremiah Smith and the safety Caleb Downs. I think this is a football team that understands the blueprint for how to win a championship. Being able to have that experience matters. Texas believes they can do it, but the guys that are in that Ohio State locker room have proof of concept, and I think that's what gives them an edge in what should be a closely contested ball game.
Paul, to that you say what?
Yeah, I say I don't know what proof of concept means, Chris. It's a big word. I'll look it up as soon as we're off the
That's
air
that
here.
SEC education,
You
baby.
definitely do.
That SEC
Oh my
education.
goodness.
But I do want to say this: those two great players were in the game last year in Dallas, and I remember with an inferior quarterback, Quinn Ewers, Texas was on the goal line, first down, about to go in and tie the game up. So I don't I listen. Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs are top of the line, but they are not the only thing that is in this game. Texas's roster is better A to Z, 1 to 85, and I just for all the greatness of Ohio State, and it is great, and Ryan Day has done a very nice job inheriting a great car from Urban Meyer. I still don't think that means very much in a game like this. And everyone wants to talk about Arch Manning. What does it mean? What does he do? But to me, Arch Manning is ready for this moment.
All right, let me pivot here quickly, guys. Obviously, we're talking about the number 1 and 3 team in the country. I want to look at number 2 in the country, and that would be Penn State. So this marks the third straight season a Big Ten team has been ranked as the number 2, with the last two teams winning the national championship, of course, as we mentioned, in Ohio State, in Michigan. Paul, are you buying that Penn State can win the title?
I'm not, and I'm well aware, Molly. We all read in the offseason, and we talk to people. And Penn State has an amazing roster with the quarterback coming back, and they did lose a coordinator, but they picked up one. To me, it still has James Franklin, and this sounds like low-hanging fruit, but he is still the coach, and I've seen him in too many situations, like last year with a lead against Ohio State, like last year with a lead against Notre Dame. I think 10 points in both cases, and they ended up being the loser. And it's just one of the, Chris. It's just one of these. I have to see it to believe it moments. He is top of the line coach. He's a top 10 coach, but until he wins what I consider to be the ultimate game, I can't buy it. And I just would have to bet here in late August that James Franklin will find some way to screw this season up, probably even in the national championship game.
Don't hold back, Paul. All right, Paul's keeping receipts on First Take this morning and not holding back. So he's in mid-season form, just like we like him, rearing and ready to go.
Yeah, I like Spicy Paul Firebomb. He's taking shots at James Franklin. Here's what I will say.
Penn State number 2,
Penn State has the path of least resistance when we start talking about title contenders. They've got 3 ranked opponents, and 2 of those games are at home, those being Oregon and Indiana. Only Ohio State on the road. They are returning 76% of their offensive production from a year ago, and they had more rushing yards than any other Power 4 program in college football. Nicholas Singleton is a beast. Nobody really talks about him as a difference maker, as a running back, and also as a receiver out of the backfield. The biggest issue that I have with their offense is that they really didn't push the ball down the field in the regular season. So I'm curious to know whether or not what we saw in the college football playoff is a prelude of things to come from Drew Aller. Did that confidence that we saw from him in postseason play, will that translate into 2025? That's the thing I'm curious about. If it does, then I absolutely take Penn State as a title contender.
Paul, I just want to come back to you on the point of James Franklin that you mentioned really quickly, and feel free to respond to CC as well. How hot is his seat?
Well, it's hard to put a guy on the hot seat when he's starting the season, in many people's eyes, as the number 1 or 2 teams in the country. But I think in perception, it is pretty hot. And I'm sure there'll be some local yokel publication in Penn State saying Feinbaum says James Franklin on the hot seat. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that when you're supposed to win, and you finally have what is the best roster you've ever had, you better win. And I don't think he will. And one thing that really bugs me about this Penn State season is their non-conference games. Chris, you mentioned the ranked opponents. That's fantastic. But they literally play 3 high school teams in the preseason, and that doesn't get you ready. Well, at least Ryan Day is playing a big-time opponent. Other schools are doing that. James Franklin is playing nobody. Take a look at that non-conference schedule, and it is beyond embarrassing. But again, remember one more thing. They're in the Big Ten, and the Big Ten loves, other than Ohio State and maybe Oregon occasionally, these pathetic schedules. I mean, Indiana's coach is mouthing off the other day, and they just added, I think, Slippery Rock and Kennesaw State and a couple of schools like that down the road, as opposed to playing meaningful games where this committee at the end of the year, should you slip up once or twice, they can legitimately measure who you are and what you're all about.
Yeah, I love a couple of high school teams on the schedule.
Yeah, just a little preseason, right?
It's always a good time.
Exactly.
Get things cooking.
I don't know how Paul has got James Franklin on a hotter seat than your boy Billy Napier down in Florida, though. I mean, they've had coaches get fired for less. Ron Zook, Jim McElwain, and Dan Mullen got fired for less.
I got to go real quick, but credence to what Canty's saying here?
Canty is on a heater right now. I'm all in on that.
All right, good times, guys. Paul, appreciate you. You'll be back with us in just a bit. Alabama will soon kick off their season. Out of all the
weapons, and Johnny Smith didn't even practice. And talking to Coach T, he's like, Ben.
Really?
He gives me that Ben. Doesn't really give me anything, just Ben. Ben.
Now, I'm an active listener, and he said, if he has time to throw the ball, just that little
Molly,
caveat.
that if is doing God's work in that sentence.
Okay. Yes. Kimberly, I'm starting with you. Hi, Mina's back here with us. Are we sleeping on these Steelers heading into the season? Because I feel like we're living in a world of extremes with our expectations for this team.
So I might say something that will blow Cece's mind. Maybe the Steelers are the team we're sleeping on the most. And the reason I say that is because
He's look like at the snoring on.
He's asleep on the Steelers. I think because when I look at this team, what's the expectations for Aaron Rodgers? What does he need to do? I don't need vintage Aaron Rodgers. We're not going to get that. I think, Mina, you mentioned sort of like point guard type of QB play. We just want competent quarterback play for the Steelers because they haven't had it in years past, and they've still managed to eke into the playoffs. So I think when you look, again, the ceiling and the floor, I think this is a team that people are sleeping on because we think Aaron Rodgers will be so bad. But what if he's decent? I think Mike Tomlin has made it work with a lot less.
When was the last time he was good? Like really good?
2021.
Okay. Mina?
I don't think people are sleeping on the Steelers because I think the majority of people correctly apprehend that this is a team that might squeak into the playoffs, and that's about it. Same team that it's been for the last few years. I don't think anyone thinks they're going to suck. No one does. But I don't think anyone thinks they're going to win a Super Bowl. This is a team that routinely wins a lot of games under Mike Tomlin, and he gets a lot of credit for that. But I think the idea that they're going to suddenly be better than they've been in the past few years is based on the false belief that you're getting Rodgers, who I mentioned earlier, Kimberly, that he just needs to be competent. That's fine. But even if he is, let's say he is average and it's a point guard, the run game looks a little better, we still think this team can go toe-to-toe with the likes of the Ravens, the Bills, the Chiefs. I do not think so. I also struggle to see how the defense, by the way, has fixed the issue I talked about earlier, the struggles versus Baltimore in big games. It's a fine team. I don't know what to say. I know that's not an exciting take, but they're okay. And I think it's fair to say they're okay, and I think that is the most common perception of this squad.
I never want to be described as, it's a fine team. With Mina in that tone. She's a fine host. She's fine. So politically...
That's like saying you got a good personality.
Politically correct.
Steelers have a good personality.
That's the word.
Yeah,
or when they're nice. They're nice. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You think they're going to suck. You think they're going to be bad.
I don't think they're going to be very good. I think we're looking at Mike Tomlin's first losing season in 19 years of being the head coach in Pittsburgh.
Can I just ask you one question before you expound on that? To Mina's point, I'm curious. Say we put one of the top quarterbacks in the league on this team, right? Pick whoever you want. How far is this team going? Like, how good is this team? Forget the Aaron Rodgers piece and all of it, because we're putting it all on him, but it's a team sport.
Yeah, I think there's some age regression on the defensive side of the ball, and they've tried to address that, especially in the secondary. They bought over Juan Thornhill in free agency, and so we'll see how that ends up happening. I think it's a net neutral to swap out for Jalen Ramsey and Minkah Fitzpatrick. I probably would have kept Minkah, but they made the decision to do that because they wanted to bring Jonnu Smith on the offensive side of the ball as well. I just don't see how this situation that Aaron Rodgers is parachuting into from a personnel standpoint is going to be markedly better than what he had with the New York Jets over the last couple of years. You're basically banking the improvement that you're going to see in Rodgers and the improvement in the overall team success on the reputation of Mike Tomlin. And I'm sorry, that's just not enough based on what I've seen last year and over the last half decade. It hasn't been good from the Pittsburgh Steelers. They lost 5 straight games to end last season. I get people talking about the numbers that Aaron Rodgers had, 3,700 yards passing, 28 touchdowns. Well, here's the thing. Between Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, the Pittsburgh Steelers had the same type of production when it comes to total touchdowns. So I just don't know that it's going to be better, and I do think you have the chance that it could be significantly worse.
Kimberly, I got something for you. You respond, but I want to get into Mike Tomlin.
No, you talk about what they were last year. Did they make the playoffs?
Yes.
Like, at the end of the day, you can say what you want about the standard should be higher. I 100% agree the standard in Pittsburgh should be higher. We shouldn't be looking at Mike Tomlin and non-losing seasons as the metric. But again, he has done better with worse. So when I look at Aaron Rodgers, I understand he's going to be 42 December 2nd or whatever it is. I understand he's older. I get it. But I'm not expecting MVP Aaron Rodgers. But I also have seen this team. I've been around the AFC North a lot.
She has. I can co-sign that.
I have seen this Steelers team with Ben Roethlisberger on one leg literally limp into the play. I've seen it happen. So my thing is, based off of that, if Aaron Rodgers is competent and somewhat good, and DK, my only thing with DK is I think he's phenomenal, but who's on the other side? If I'm a defense, it's okay, cut that off. Make sure you figure out how to neutralize DK if you can, and then make them, stop the run game or whatever. But I just don't think they have enough weapons on offense. I think that's part of it also.
Mina, let me come to you on this, because we all know Mike Tomlin. He's revered, respected around the league, never had a losing season, and the longevity and consistency that he's had. But do you feel like he is on the hot seat? They could potentially be looking at a new voice there.
I do, and I want to be clear, that's not completely an indictment on Mike Tomlin. This is kind of a two things can be true situation. He can still be a phenomenal coach who would be desired by more than half of the league if he was a free agent, and he might not be the right coach for this version of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because, Kimberly talked about them limping into the playoffs. That just feels like it's been the story of this team forever. And if you made the switch, I'm not saying that you would see immediate improvement. You probably wouldn't. It would probably get worse before it gets better. But it's possible that he is better suited to coach a team with an established quarterback situation. Whereas this team, it feels like if they don't make any noise this year, and I say making noise, I'm not talking about having a winning record, they would be best served by ripping the Band-Aid and really rethinking what they're doing at quarterback. Because with Tomlin, I think you've seen just that slightly above average record long enough to feel like it's going to be more of the same.
Yeah, it's not good enough. It's not good enough for what the Pittsburgh Steelers want. And if you look at the track record of the organization, this is around the time in a coach's tenure where they look to move on, right? You go from Chuck Noll to Bill Cowher to now Mike Tomlin. You're talking about right around that 2 decades mark. Before the organization is bringing in a new voice to be the head coach. And so I do think it's that time. And beyond that, I think the track record is the track record, right? Mike Tomlin ain't won a playoff game since Barack Obama was in office, right? He's got the third.
I love when we bring up the president.
He's third all-time in the most consecutive seasons without a playoff win behind Jim Mora and Marvin Lewis. He's second all-time with 8 one-and-done postseason appearances trailing only Marty Schottenheimer. That's not the company that you want to be in. So I do think it's time for a new voice. You couple that with the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers are likely going to be in the quarterback business next year's NFL draft. It just makes sense to align the organization, new head coach, new quarterback, and move forward. It could be reminiscent of what happened with Andy Reid in the Philadelphia Eagles. They moved on from Andy Reid. Didn't mean that Andy Reid still couldn't coach, but it was the right thing for the organization in terms of transitioning, turning that thing over. They ended up winning a couple of Super Bowls after that. So I think it could be a similar scenario for Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. Don't think he's going to get fired. They would frame it as a mutual parting of ways, but it could be time for them to move on in Pittsburgh.
You might be right. Two things could be true. If Mike Tomlin doesn't want to go anywhere, I don't see Mike Tomlin going anywhere. I feel like he's the one head coach in the NFL where things are different. And the fans have been talking about him for years, wanting him out, and it hasn't happened. I think he should want out. He should have wanted out a couple of years ago after Big Ben, but he didn't. So I think if he wants to stay, he'll be back.
All right, we'll keep it rolling here. We're going to our nation's capital since we're talking about presidents. Where Terry McLaurin still remains without a new contract with the Commanders. Washington activated the star wide receiver from the physically unable to perform list, which allows him to participate in practice. Head coach Dan Quinn had a strong response when asked about what he expects to see with McLaurin on the field.
I'm not going to play Where's Waldo, guys, all right, moving forward. So just so we're clear on that. So Terry's return to play format is no different than any of the other players. He's healthy, which is now a good step to like getting closer to being back on the field. So you'll see that earlier than later. I don't have a date circled on my whiteboard in my office.
We're not playing Where's Waldo, and we all remember that, not dating ourselves. Is his response, Dan Quinn there, is that something or nothing? Because I felt a little hostility, but maybe it's towards the media just asking the same question repeatedly.
Yeah, you get tired of it. It wears on you, and Dan Quinn is trying to get his football team ready for the start of the regular season, so I completely get where he's coming from. That said, I do expect that Terry McLaurin should be there, but if he's not, you are talking about a situation where you're worried about regression from Jaden Daniels, right? With Terry McLaurin, the Washington Commanders are an absolute contender, not only to win the NFC East, but to potentially win the conference and go to the Super Bowl. That's how talented Jaden Daniels is. But without Terry McLaurin, without that explosive element in the vertical passing game, without the guy that leads the NFL in tight window catches over the last half decade, it makes it hard to do. If you look back on all of the one-score wins that the Commanders had last year, they had 9 of them, including a couple of games where Terry McLaurin won it on the last play on throwing catches from Jaden Daniels. If you don't have that in your offense, I struggle to think what the Washington Commanders will be in terms of that unit being as dominant as we saw in his rookie year for Jaden Daniels.
Mina, did you feel like it was something or nothing, what you just heard there?
I think he is frustrated because of exactly what Chris said, which is they know how important he is to this team, how necessary he is. Last year, guys, on throws over 10 yards, nearly 40% of Jaden Daniels' targets were to Terry McLaurin. If you take him from this receiver group, it is extremely thin. Deebo Samuel, we saw him on the jet sweep in the preseason game. Fantastic underneath. Can't wait to see him as part of a screen game. None of that works if defenses don't have to respect Jaden Daniels' ability to push the ball downfield. They're going to creep up close to the line of scrimmage, stuff the run, stuff Deebo. It all falls apart for me, quite frankly. Better defenses, not just the Bengals defense that we saw in the preseason. I think what's tricky, though, sorry, Bengals fans, I promise I'll stop. What's tricky for Washington, though, is if McLaurin, and it's been reported, truly wants to get paid per annum more than DK Metcalf, that is an overpay, right? You're putting him in the same average per year as the likes of CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, etc. Jamar Chase, that's who's above there. Terry McLaurin is significantly older than those players. You can understand why there's some hesitation on the part of Washington to give him that kind of contract. But he has a lot of leverage in my mind because of how this team is built, and I do not blame him for using it to try to get that money.
And I think that kind of encapsulates why Dan Quinn is so frustrated, because Dan Quinn came in last year charged with a rookie quarterback having to rebuild a culture with this football team, new ownership, all of that. And they exceeded. We knew Jaden would be good, but they exceeded expectations. Now it's like you